Hi guys, welcome to a new series where I'll be looking at different decks from the Star Wars Unlimited TCG. So far, if you've been following the competitive scene at all, or if you've just been playing in your local game store, you've probably noticed that the predominant strategy is to mix different colours. And I don't know about you guys, but the most common colour that I seem to be coming up against is green. And it seems to be that this is because the Energy Conversion Lab is one of the strongest bases in the game. And especially some of the green villain cards, like Overwhelming Barrage, just do things that other colours can't do, like mass removal, that kind of thing. Obviously, each of the colours is focused on different strategies and different benefits. So yellow, which is the colour that I've chosen to go for my first constructed tournament, is focused on kind of disruption, I suppose, bouncing things back to your opponent's hands, exhausting opponent's minions, that kind of thing. And going for a double yellow deck like this is obviously a bit of a risky strategy because especially early on in the game when we only have one set, you're limiting your choice of cards basically quite drastically. The upside obviously is that you get to use these double yellow cards. I mean, here we have Cunning, Cantina Bouncer, and Bod Rook. So the double color cards are obviously very powerful for their cost. They do very powerful things. And that's the upside for using a mono deck. So far from what I've seen, mono yellow is probably the most viable color to use. I'm not sure about mono yellow hero, actually I haven't seen that yet. Mono blue seems like it might be somewhat viable. Mono green almost certainly isn't. And I'm not really sure about mono red actually. So I need to look into that more. I might try and make a mono red deck for the next video. But I took this one to my first constructed tournament and we only had a few players there, but I think I won 6 games and I lost 1 game with it. So it's obviously a very powerful deck. And as I go through the list, you'll see that I've got a few choices which might be a bit rogue and are probably not the best cards to use. But another thing that because I'm a big Star Wars fan, so just thematically, I like to have cards like Jabba the Hutt. He's just one of my favorite characters. So even though he might not be actually the most competitively viable character in the game, for me it was important to include him. But we'll discuss his card a bit more in detail in a minute when we go through the deck list. So I'm going to go through it in order. I'm going to talk about ground units, space units, and events. And then I'll give you some advice about how I think it's best to play this particular deck. It's actually, other than Boba Fett, the unit card, it's not the most expensive deck to put together. I'm not sure why Boba Fett's not showing up on this picture, but he is in my deck list, as you'll see in a minute. Anyway, let's carry on. So up first is Greo. Greo is arguably the best 1-drop in the game. He's a 1-mana 3/1, and I'm sorry if I end up using sort of Hearthstone lingo. It's just that I played Hearthstone for many years and this game feels very similar to that. So he's a 1-mana 3/1 who is, when defeated, you may discard a card from your deck. If it's not a unit, deal 2 damage to a ground unit. So basically he comes in, he does 3 damage, he can trade up with 2 drops, and then when he dies there's a chance that he might then kill another unit basically. So if they have a Viper Droid, he can kill that unit with his ability. So he often goes 2 for 1, and in one of my games that I had in my constructed tournament, I can't remember how, but I think he went 4 for 1. Or maybe 3 for 1. I played him, I shielded him with the 2-cost event, Asteroid Sanctuary. And then he killed someone with a shield, he killed someone without a shield, and then with his ability he pinged and killed someone else as well. So he went 3 for 1 as a 1-drop, and that's, that early in the game, that's basically game winning. So yeah, there's not much more to say about him really. He's the best 1-drop in the game. If you're playing a yellow deck, you're going to want him. And he's actually not, surprisingly, he's not a villain card, so he doesn't have a restriction there. So you can play him in yellow hero decks as well. And he's obviously someone very worth playing in your deck. Next up is Crafty Smuggler. For those of you who played Hearthstone, this is basically a shielded mini-bot. It's a 2-cost 2/2 with shield. So to look at him, it's not a very impressive card. It's not very flashy. But I knew as soon as I saw this card that it was going to be good. Anyone who played Hearthstone and remembers shielded mini-bot, it was a paladin minion that basically ever since it was put into the game, it was an auto-include. Everyone had to play it because it's just, for the stat line, it's really annoying to get rid of. That shield, I've found in this game, even more maybe than Hearthstone, shields are just quite powerful. It's quite annoying for your opponents to deal with because often it's trading 2 for 1. They need to trade into the shield and then they need to trade into the minion. A lot of the removal in Star Wars Unlimited is very expensive. And the removal that isn't expensive is often either not definitive removal, it's just exhausting a minion, or it's non-targeted, like Power of the Dark Side, so you don't get to choose what you kill. So, you're not going to want to use your Vanquish or your Takedown on a Crafty Smuggler, so you're going to have to trade, and you're going to have to trade 2 for 1. And, obviously not so much in this set with yellow cards, but in the future, if there are good yellow upgrades, this is the kind of card that will become even more powerful because you stick him down for 2 and then you put something like, +2/+2, +3/+3, and he just becomes really annoying with that shield for that price point. Yeah, so he's a definite include in this kind of deck. Viper Probe Droid. This is obviously, I think, if there were bigger in the future, when there is a bigger card pool, this is the kind of card I don't think would be included in this kind of deck. Currently, it's just a good minion for the stat line, 2 mana, 3/2, and it has a slight upside when played. Look at an opponent's hand. I think in this deck, that's not that useful. We're not looking to disrupt from hand. Information is always nice in card games. Currently, in this game, I don't think there's enough ways to interact with the opponent's hand. As we'll see in a bit, we do have Bod Rook, but I feel like Bod Rook's ability is powerful enough that it doesn't matter what your opponent's holding, you just will play it. So it doesn't matter if you knew, they had a particular card or not. Maybe there are, cases where that would be important, but I'm not really aware of them. And then we come to Boba Fett. So he's one of the reasons to play this deck really. He's probably the most powerful statted minion for his cost in the whole game. A 3 mana 3/5. I don't think there's any other 3 mana cards that have more than 4 health. There's not even that many that have 4 health, to be honest. So his stat line is insane. And then he has an ability which at first, it seems good, but when you actually, play with it and play around it, it's actually really, really good. So it says, on attack, if this unit is attacking an exhausted unit that didn't enter play this round, deal 3 damage to the defender. So obviously that's got a lot of caveats to it. You have to be attacking an exhausted unit, and that exhausted unit has to have survived from the previous turn. But, knowing that, you let Boba Fett attack last, you choose your minion wisely, and you get to do 3 damage to the base. So, and he's just really annoying to get rid of, especially with Asteroid Sanctuary. If you put a shield on him, 5 health at that stage of the game, it's very difficult. And then next up is Bod Rook. So he is one of the reasons to be doing a double yellow deck. And his ability, when I saw it, it's crazy. When played, look at an opponent's hand and discard a non-unit card from it. So I suppose looking back at the Viper Droid, that is a very powerful combination, obviously, knowing that your opponent has an event. But on balance, most of the time your opponent is going to be holding an event, or an upgrade. I think I played Bod Rook in every game I played, and I always hit something. It's very rare that you miss. In the late game, against aggro, or mid to late game, maybe they are less likely to have an event in their hand because they're playing more units, or they have fewer cards in their hand at that point. But if you play them on curve, when your opponent has only had a chance to play out one card, or maybe two if you're going second, there's a really good chance that you're going to hit something, and going to hit something quite impactful. Something like Traitorous or Vanquish. He's just really good. I mean, obviously he's powerful because he's double yellow. He's one of the reasons to play this deck. And this is, so Jabba the Hutt. Obviously, as I said earlier, for me personally, it's a thematic thing. I do think he's quite, well statted. He's a 4-mana 2/8. That's really annoying to get rid of. I'm not sure if there's another card in the game which is a 4-mana 8 health minion. I know Bright Hope has, I think Bright Hope's a 2/6. And then he does have quite a powerful upside. So each trick event you play costs 1 less. When played, search the top 8 cards of your deck for a trick event, reveal it, and draw it. Put the other cards in the bottom of your deck in a random order. So we're not playing that many tricks because there aren't that many, and they're not all that great. But I have put a little sort of small trick package in. And so sometimes it's actually better to play Jabba on 5 because you can play Jabba and then you play a 2-cost trick for 1. But equally, playing him on 4 is quite viable because he's likely to stick around. People aren't going to want to put 8 damage into this guy. And if he does stick around and you have a few tricks in your hand, that effect does start to stack up. So although he's probably not the best, competitively speaking, he's fun, he's thematic, and I think he does hold his own slightly. Gamorrean Guards. This one, I think I've put it in as a one-off, just because Sentinel is quite powerful. Because you're playing quite a few small yellow minions, and pretty much every minion in your deck apart from Viper Droid is yellow. The effect pretty much always goes off essentially, and I think it did save my bacon a few times when I played it. It's not very flashy. It's a 4-mana 4/4, but pretty run-of-the-mill stats, but fairly costed. So Bosk is a very powerful card. 5-mana 4/5 with Ambush, and the ability is just insane. If you manage to keep Jabba down and you manage to stick Bosk, I mean, this is all kind of wishful thinking, I guess, but he did go off for me once or twice, but once he's down and you're playing events, he's very powerful. So you may deal 2 damage to a unit when you play an event. So you're kind of removing or exhausting with events. You're hitting with Bosk, hitting with Jabba, and you're also, with his ability, pinging off other things as well, or putting damage onto bigger things. So he's a 3-of in the deck, and I think he's very powerful. A 4-attack ambush card is very good. And this is the next double yellow. There's 3 in the deck. This is the second one. It's a 5-mana 3/5. When played, you may return a non-leader unit to its owner's hand. So he's basically Waylay on a stick. It's a 5-mana Waylay, and you get a 3/5. Very strong, very swingy. It's such a tempo swing. You put this down, a non-leader unit, obviously it can't be a leader, but it can be something huge. It can be an opponent's Fir Spray. It could be an Obi-Wan Kenobi. It could be a Chewbacca, So just massive things. They've spent their whole turn paying out 6 or something for that. You've returned that minion to their hand, and you've put down a 3/5. In this game, that is huge, because there aren't many ways to kind of do 2 things at once like that. I've found the game currently as it is, obviously it's not been power crept, there's not new sets, that kind of thing. The game feels quite fair, and this, it's just one way of kind of doing 2 things in one. But there is a massive limitation on it, obviously. it has a double yellow, so in any other deck it would cost 7, but in this deck it costs 5. So, and now we get into the space vehicles, the space units. Cartel Space Set is a normally statted minion, 2 mana 2/3. When you play, if you control another yellow unit, exhaust an enemy unit, it costs 4 or less. So he's not great on turn 1, but any turn after that, you're usually going to have a yellow unit in play. And kind of in the same vein as Cantina Bouncer, but obviously not quite as strong, playing something and exhausting an opponent's unit is pretty powerful. It stops them doing what they want to do. It means you can do what you want to do. I think it's probably an auto-include in every yellow villain deck, to be honest. As is 7th Fleet Defender, a 3 mana 3/2 with a shield. This is just, it's really well statted. In terms of the shield, it trades very well with minions around this cost, 2 and 3. It's very difficult to get rid of because of the shield, despite the fact that it has a lower health value. So, yeah, a very powerful card. And an auto-include, I think. And another card which, when I first saw it, I wasn't 100% sure how good it was going to be. But having played it, this is maybe one of my favourite cards in the game. And probably one of my favourite cards in the deck. So it's a 4 mana 3/4 space unit which can attack units in the ground arena. And while this unit is attacking a ground unit, the defender gets -2 attack. So this can basically, once it comes down on 4, it can trade across diagonally to the other arena. And it often trades, it doesn't take any damage if it hits a 2 attack thing, or it takes 1 damage at a time when it's attacking 3 damage things. So it's trading with Sabine, it's trading with like Death Troopers. It takes 1 damage from a Death Trooper. And as an aside, the Death Trooper's ability doesn't trigger on things like this, so because it only works on ground units. It's just very strong. What I noticed when I was playing my games is that putting down Strafing Gunship, the opponent, when they saw that, they were doing everything they could with their cards to get rid of this thing, basically. Using events on it, using Vanquish, using Takedown, because they realised how strong it is. So it's a 3-of in the deck, and I think it has to be. Speaking of strong space units, Fett's Fir Spray is it's one of the win conditions of this deck, really. It's a 6 mana 5/6. When played, if you control Boba Fett as a leader or unit, ready this unit. So it comes in ready, and it has an action which costs 2, which says exhaust a non-unique unit. Interestingly, it does say or Jango Fett. So, obviously he was going to be coming, but I'm looking forward to that Clone Wars set, because the first set has been focused on the original trilogy. So I'm wondering, I think Kylo Ren and Rey have sort of been spoiled for the next set, but I'm looking forward to the prequel set. Anyway, so 5/6, very good stat line, comes in ready, so you can attack straight away because we're playing Boba Fett. And the ability on the turn you play it probably isn't the best, but going forward, being able to just pay 2 and exhaust a non-unique unit, and note that it doesn't actually exhaust this unit. So it's just, and it doesn't say that you can't do it more than once per turn. So in theory, obviously you'd be using a lot of your actions, but you can just keep exhausting non-unique units for 2 resources with this. So yeah, this is, it's one of your win conditions. Once it's down, it's hard to get rid of, and it's just hitting them in the face for 5, basically. And it's a 3-of. So now we come to the events. No Good to Me Dead. This is a 2 mana, exhaust a unit. That unit can't ready this round, including during the regroup phase. So you play this, you exhaust something big, and then that unit can't ready on the next round. This is the way you prevent the opponent from using their leaders in this deck. If you have this in hand in the turns leading up to a leader coming out, So, you know, turns 3 or 4 for Sabine or Krennic or Iden, that kind of thing. You have to hold on to it, and you have to wait for them to pull out their leader. You can't play it on anything else pretty much, unless obviously that thing is equally powerful. So I had a game against someone who was playing a Chewbacca deck. So Chewbacca was their leader, and Chewbacca had taken a few points of damage. And he has grit. So I think by this point he was a 5/6, and then they had Obi-Wan Kenobi next to him. So they both have Sentinel, so they're both basically targetable. And I spent ages thinking about, you know, which one should I go for. And in the end, I think I put it on Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then he upgraded Chewbacca. But anyway, a very powerful card for 2 mana. You're taking a unit out of the game for two rounds, basically. But you have to save it for powerful things. Don't waste it on Death Troopers or something, you know. Unless you're really far behind. Surprise Strike, 2 mana, attack with a unit. It gets +3/+0 for this attack. So this is just a way to trade up with something smaller. So this works really well with Crafty Smuggler. So it has a shield. It's only a 2 attack minion. Your opponent thinks they're okay. You play this. That Crafty Smuggler trades up with something, becomes a 5/2 temporarily. And because it has a shield, it doesn't die either. So yeah, just a really good card. Or in the late game, or, you know, you're trying to push for that win, you can just do an extra 3 damage to the base. That's Waylay is a 3 cost, return a non-leader unit to its owner's hand. So this is, if you played Hearthstone, this is basically Sap, which in Hearthstone actually was a 2 cost. But and if you remember that game, it's a very powerful effect, because let's say your opponent plays, I mean, I keep going back to him, but let's choose someone else. Let's say they play Luke Skywalker for 7. They just spent their whole turn paying 7 resources to play Luke Skywalker. You pay 3 resources and you just ping him back to the hand, and that whole turn was wasted. Okay, they may have got a -3/-3 on something, but now they can't do anything. And you still have 3 or 4 resources or 5 resources left or whatever. So it's a very cheap removal. It's only temporary removal, it's not hard removal, but nonetheless, it's cheap. It's not always amazing. You don't want to bounce things that have, you know, very powerful unplayed abilities. So you have to be wary of that. So something like an interceptor or something. But it's useful. And it's a trick, so it works with Jabba the Hutt. It becomes a 2 cost. This is the last double yellow card that we have in the deck, and the last available right now. Cunning. So it's a 4 resource, I should say. Choose 2 in any order. Return a non-leader unit with 4 or less power to its owner's hand. Give a unit +4 -/-0 +4 for this phase, +4 attack. Exhaust up to 2 units when opponent discards a random card from their hand. So most of the time when you're playing this deck, the way you want to play this one is usually the abilities you want to use are return a non-leader unit to the hand, so it's basically Waylay, and exhaust up to 2 units. Because that is one fell swoop, you've eliminated their entire turn, basically. But on occasion, the other 2 abilities are quite good. A +4 allows you to trade up with something, or to get a bit of extra damage on the base, or even finish them off. And an opponent discards a random card from their hand. If the opponent only has 1 card in the hand, that's very strong. Otherwise, less so, really. But yeah, this card is obviously very powerful. You know, it's double costed for a reason. I think there's an argument to be made in some decks that you might even play this off aspect and pay 6 for it. It's that strong. So paying 4 for this is very good. It's not always the best on turn 4, I will say, or turn 3, I should say. Just because by that point in the game, you've been trading back and forth with your opponent, and they might not have that many minions in play. But later on, when you have more resources, let's say they have 3 or 4 minions, you get to exhaust 2 of them and return 1 of them to their hand, you know, for 4, and then you still have resources left to do something with. So at that point it is very, very strong. Okay, and it's a 3 of in the deck. So another trick is another trick card. So with Jabba, this is free. It's a 1 cost attack with a unit. It gets +1 for this attack and deals its combat damage before the defender. So if the defender is defeated, it deals no combat damage. So this is just a free trade, really. And with Jabba, it's an especially free trade because it comes in at 0. So if you had something surviving on turn 2, turn 3, you play Jabba, and then you play this, and you trade for free. So it's quite good. It also gets that +1, so it can trade up slightly. I think I run it as a 2 of because it can be a bit of a dead card in your hand if things don't line up quite well enough for it. But yeah. And that's about it for this video, really. Let me know if this kind of thing is good or not. If I should talk about other things, or if I should include gameplay on Force Table or something like that. But there's a nice hyperspace variant of this card. But yeah, I think I will keep trying to make different decks, and then I'll talk about them on here. Thanks for watching.